Don't place a trade based on what you're seeing in this video because there is no guarantees of making a profit in the market. It takes you a long time to become a good trader. So this video here is just to educate you to become a much better trader. So the next thing I want to talk to you about, guys, is let's actually bring up the silver here. Okay, so when will silver take off, right? When will silver really start to gallop in the movement of what's going on right now? Well, the first thing that I do see here, guys, when it comes to silver is this. If I bring up, say, my trend lines through here, let me just erase everything off the screen. I do see how there's major levels of resistance all through here. I've always had this trend line coming down through here as well too. So something through there. So I do see, guys, that once we start, we have this resistance level through here, and then we have this. We've got a few areas of resistance through here, but once we really start to break, say, back above, say, 20, well, this here has been doing nothing for a lot of time. So once we start to really break above 20, I believe that that's when we can start to see a big move, right? We can start to see a nice move up over a few years, guys. So if you place a trade today and it goes down tomorrow or the next day, oh my goodness, it went down. Really, guys? Don't do that, okay? Please don't do that to yourself. That's not the way the markets work. There is foundations to these markets, and so if you're jumping on big trends, you have to endure whipsaws and pullbacks and all that sort of stuff. Makes sense? So, but I also honestly believe that as we can see here, right, I believe this low here is indeed the low for many years to come. So what's happening right now with the overall, let's actually bring this back to this level 3, okay? What's actually going on right now with the overall inflation type of thing, right? So if I bring up the, so right now, guys, there's been a lot of money, there's been a lot of printing of money, right? But there's been no inflation. Now, why is that? Why has there been no inflation? Well, even though there's been record numbers of money being printing, there's been no inflation because we've had people holding on to it and not spending it as much as possible, as much as the government would like. Makes sense? So as you can see here, right, this here is the velocity of money. This is basically, how this is basically the people, how many times people are going out and using the same money. Right, so the velocity of money simply means that if I go to the restaurant and I spend $100 at the restaurant, then the lady that I gave a $10 tip to, she then goes to the bar that night and then buys a glass of wine, for $5. That's a cheap glass of wine, by the way. I think so anyway. And then so on and so forth, right? That's the velocity of how much it actually is done. So as you can see, right, there's the velocity of money that people are actually basically spending out there is slowing down. That's the reason why, guys, that inflation hasn't been big for a long time, right? So what happens initially, and just by studying this here, what happens initially is that all this money is being printed into the system, trillions and trillions of dollars in the system, and then it does nothing for velocity. Now, if we go have it does nothing for inflation. But if we have a look at inflation, once we start to see, and inflation will start to pick up again, once we start to really see the velocity of money here, as you can see, it dropped even more. Once we see the velocity of money pick up, and it will pick up, guys, okay? If you understand, especially if you're a bit elderly, like if you're in even your mid-30s, right? Even 40s, mid-30s, 40s, look back over your time, right? Look over history and start to understand how, look at your life from a perspective of cycles, right? Like for me, same with trading. When there's a lot of really good trades, I know I'm going to go through a period where it's going to be really quiet and there's not going to be many trades. And then the cycle's going to repeat. That's happened 2 or 3 times this year. There's been 2 or 3 months where there's a lot of amazing trades, and there's been a month with no trades. And then there's been a month with maybe 1 or 2 good trades. And then there's been a month of a couple of good trades, you know what I mean? And so on and so forth. So anyway, so as we can see, right, the velocity of money has been dropping down a lot through here. So when the velocity of money picks up, and it will start to pick up with all the money in the system, so the government has basically had to do something like this, right, to keep up with basically this. But what happens when this is here and then this starts to pick up? Guess what? Then all this money is going to come flooding back or pushing this. Then we're going to start to see real inflation, right? Real inflation. And then that's when, guys, that's when we start to see this inflation here. That's when that starts to happen, which I believe is probably a couple of years away from now, guys. Not right now, but probably a couple of maybe 2, maybe 3 years away of start to see really inflation pick up, I believe. Could be wrong, it could be earlier, I don't know. But then when that happens, guys, we're really going to start to see things like gold, or even things like silver, really, this is the silver weekly chart once again. This is when I see silver really start to take off massively because of the inflation of what's going on there. The inflation of will start to inflate these prices, right? Which no doubt is going to push up. It's probably going to be a dampening on stock market, but it's going to push up property prices. That's why, guys, after this next maybe 1 or 2 years, that's why I'm very bullish on the property market, right? One, there's very low interest rates. Interest rates will go back up again, by the way. When that happens, it's going to be deadly for the government. But when inflation rises, that's going to push up asset prices, right? Because everything starts to become more expensive. So asset prices such as property, not stocks. I don't believe stocks will rise over the next, say, 5 or 6 years. But property, that's why I'm a big believer that property will go through another massive boom, because when inflation starts to pick up big time, rents go up, property prices go up, like everything starts to pick up big time, you know what I mean? And that will happen, guys. That's what I'm saying. Over the next 10 years, we're likely to see silver take off like there's no tomorrow. And, maybe in the next 5 years, I believe we're likely to see silver start to break out, and, or maybe it's even started that big bull trend right now, as I was saying before. But that's what I was saying before, guys, right? Like when the velocity of money picks up, and it may take another couple of years for that to pick up, the inflation will start to pick up. When that starts to pick up, property prices are going to go through the roof again, right? And even if we do, yes, we're probably going to go through a bit of a slowdown here over the next maybe 1 year or so, but then it's going to pick up massively, right? And with the amount of money in the system and so on and so forth. And that's why I believe, guys, people who have places like, people that have places like housing, and then also, rental properties and so on and so forth. If you're positive cash flow right now, it's only going to get better and better and better for you, right? Because not only will rents go up for you, which means more positive cash flow for you, but then also I believe that the asset price, the property prices will go up as well too.